Academica Media. From Academica Media Studios in Miami, Florida, it's Big Ideas in Education, a weekly recap of inspiration and innovation in your schools.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Ryan Kairalla. We are happy to be joined this week on the program by Ann Garcia. Popularly known as the College Financial Lady, our guest is a certified financial planner and the author of How to Pay for College. The book and its companion online course are available now, and you can find out more about our guest's work by visiting www.thecollegefinanciallady.com. Ann, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is going to be a treat. I was just telling you before the interview that this is a subject area that we don't talk about nearly enough around here, and it's something that's on the mind of every parent and school professional I know, including this parent and school professional who now has a new baby and is thinking about the cost of college pretty much on a daily basis. So I'm glad you're here, Ann. Let me first ask you a little bit about your origin story. What got you passionate about this specific area of financial planning?
Good question. So as a financial planner, I found early in my career, I was talking a lot with two groups of people. One was parents who just couldn't figure out how to fit this massive expense called college into their budget overall. And the other was young adults who, because they'd taken on so much student loan debt, were really struggling with the basic building blocks of their adult financial lives, whether it was saving for retirement, buying a home, sometimes even just having a savings account so they didn't end up running up credit card debt when something went wrong. And at the same time, I'm a parent. So I have twins who graduated from college last spring. So this was a topic that I knew I needed to understand for my own family. And so I started digging in. And the more I engaged with the topic, the more I realized that I needed to be talking about it with more than just my clients. And so I started writing my blog at the College Financial Lady, and then that turned into a book over time, and here we are now.
This is definitely a subject area that parents are screaming for more information about, hence what drove you into the work that you're doing now. But it's also a subject area that the K-12 industry is screaming for more information about. We have students who are college bound, and they're asking us as education professionals a lot of questions about how they're going to pay for college, how can their parents help them pay, what should they be doing right now to lower the cost of college. And so let's say you were in front of an audience of K-12 principals, teachers. What should we be communicating to students about financial planning for college?
Well, I think the most important thing, and the thing that families really don't understand, is college is available at every price point. You can get a 4-year college degree for free. You can get a 4-year college degree for $500,000, and you could probably even figure out some ways to spend more than that to get a college degree.
In America, for sure.
And really everywhere in between those price points. So I think it's really important for people to understand that, it is not $85,000 a year to get a college degree. It's not even $35,000 a year to get a college degree. You can get a degree at a wide variety of institutions for a wide range of prices. And so for families who are planning for college, one of the most important considerations is, what is your budget? And if you can understand your budget, how you're going to pay for it, typically that's a combination of savings, paying out of pocket, and potentially taking out student loans. If you have that number, you can get an education for that price.
So there is a college at every price point. That is very profound. And so that would mean that, to the beginning of your statement, that there are college options at the $0 price point. Do tell, how can students find these $0 college options? What do these look like in practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Typically they are blended pathways that oftentimes start with either community college or a dual enrollment program, whether in high school or in college. Dual enrollment being, where you're jointly enrolled in either high school and community college, or 4-year college and community college, but where you're earning your college credits at the community college and then transferring them over as part of a 4-year degree. Most states have some form of free community college that is available, depending on the state's own requirements for how you access it. But they tend to be, those programs tend to be fairly broadly available. Some states even allow you to complete an entire 4-year degree. I know you were talking about Florida has pathways for people to complete a 4-year degree for as part of a dual enrollment program.
Yeah.
And then there are loads of options once you've completed, if you're in one of the likely majority of states that only has 2-year pathways through community college, then there are alternate pathways that come available to you. For example, my son has a friend who graduated same time as he did for $0. She did 2 years of free community college, and then she was working at Starbucks, and Starbucks has a tuition partnership program with Arizona State. And so she finished up her final 2 years at Arizona State through their online program for free. And loads of employers have those types of programs. They are typically available to part-time employees, such as my son's friend, in addition to full-time employees. And they're really, a great opportunity for someone who wants to earn a 4-year degree and wants to do so without taking on a significant student loan debt. Whether it's doing a couple of your years that way, whether it's doing all 4 years. There's lots of flexibility there. Unfortunately, we tend to let so much of the college narrative be driven by the Ivy Leagues, the Stanfords and whatnot, that we're not paying attention to the fact that there are loads and loads of pathways and loads of great ways to get education through lots of other places.
Well, in terms of those pathways to college, Ann, one of the things that we often see in the K-12 world is students who have multiple options. They have the different pathways in front of them, and they come to us in K-12 for advice on which pathway to go down. Here's the scenario that I get at least several times a year, and I would love to get your perspective on maybe what advice should I be giving to this student. It's usually a high-performing student who gets good grades, good test scores, and has the option between a very prestigious, these Ivy League type colleges, a very prestigious college at full price. You're talking about $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, not counting room and board, and perhaps a state school or a college that's not considered as prestigious, but heavy scholarships, maybe even a full scholarship, or something where they can transfer a lot of dual enrollment credits and effectively give themselves a tuition-free experience. When a student comes to us with those two choices, what should we be telling them? What should we be advising them? What are some of the things that we should tell that student to consider when making that choice?
Yeah, and that's it's a tough choice for a lot of students to make. The most important thing about going to college is not where you go to college, it's how you go to college. I heard
Whoa.
I
You're
heard
giving
a
us some
great
good
phrase.
quotes today, Ann.
I heard a great phrase. I can't take credit for this one. I wish I could, but the most important name on your diploma is your own.
Oh, wow.
So make sure that that's your target, is getting your own name on your diploma. There was a study done a few years ago called the Gallup-Purdue Index, where they surveyed successful adults to try to determine what about their college experience had led to that success. And what they found in the survey was that it had absolutely nothing about where you went to college. It wasn't big versus small. It wasn't private versus public. It wasn't elite versus, lots of people get accepted. It wasn't urban or rural, nothing
Sure.
about that. It was all about specific experiences that you had as a student. It was things like feeling like professors cared about you, having the opportunity to apply classroom learning to a job or an internship, working on a project that took a semester or longer to complete, finding mentors among the faculty, participating in extracurriculars. All of those are available at lots and lots of different colleges. And I would say, and this is me speaking probably more as a parent than as an advisor, but having observed my own children and their friends go through this process, college is about relationships. So when you think of where's the best place for me to go, think about how you engage with people. How do you make friends? What types of classroom environment are you most likely to participate in? And I know it's easy to say, for example, oh, I want to be in a small, my student, if you're a parent, or I myself participate better in a smaller discussion-oriented environment. Here's the thing, lots of students perform really well in an anonymous environment. Maybe they're like my son, where they have a high-performing twin sister who they're used to being compared to. My kids, I have twins. My daughter we call her a D1 mathlete. My son was a very normal kid. She was in a similar situation to that student, where she was accepted to some very elite, highly selective schools and had a full tuition scholarship at our in-state school, University of Oregon. My son went to University of Arizona, which is a school that you can kind of sign up and go. And I don't say that to denigrate Arizona. Arizona has a very different mission than where my daughter went to school. And here's the thing. So she went to one of those sub 10% acceptance rate colleges. He went to a college that you sign up and go. They both graduated in the spring, and they have identical jobs. Same type of company, same management training program, same salary, same benefits, but for the fact that he was finance and she was computer science, so their specific job function is different, they ended up in the same place with really different pathways. So I would say to that student, look at a variety of factors. So what does the financial piece of it look like? Is that full price college something that's within reach for your family? And how do you engage as a student, as a person, with friends? And which environment is more likely to be the one that you're going to engage in? If you're concerned about big class sizes versus small discussion sizes, does that public school with the big scholarships have an honors college where you might be in smaller classrooms, smaller programs? Are there research opportunities, things like that? Because oftentimes scholarships will have faculty mentorship, research opportunities, things like that as part of the scholarship program, which will give you a little bit more of that small school experience. I would also say colleges have the same stuff. They all have job placement programs. They all have access to Handshake, which is where most of the job placements are happening. They all have academic advisors. It's just, sometimes at a smaller school, it's more of a push environment where that all gets pushed onto you, and all you have to do is pick up what's being pushed at you. Sometimes at a bigger school, it's more of a pull environment where you have to be the one who goes and pulls all of that out. And that's okay too, because that's a really good life skill. Learning how to find who that advisor is and schedule a time with them and talk with them is something that will benefit you in your later life as well.
So many great pearls of wisdom there, Ann. You are among the more quotable guests we've had here on Big Ideas in Education. This is fantastic. I'm going to use this one on my kids someday. It's not where you go to college, it's how you go to college. The most important name on the diploma is your name. Just wow, really, really cool stuff. Great perspective.
Again, that was one I got from someone else.
All right, well, so that one, we won't put your name under the quote for that one, but we're going to give you credit for that first one, which I thought was equally as good. Let's now look at this from the parent's perspective, okay? Because I'm sure this is one you get all the time in your role as a certified financial planner, where a parent comes up to you and says, I'm trying to save for my kid's college, but I'm also trying to save for retirement. I also have credit card debt that I'm trying to pay down. Oh, and by the way, I'm still trying to pay off my own student loans from when I went to college. This is becoming an increasingly prevalent situation as millennials and Gen Xers are starting to have kids that are looking at college as an opportunity. When you have a parent that comes to you with that, what I imagine is an all too familiar situation, what are some of the initial thoughts that you give them?
Yeah, and it's a tough situation because when you're a parent, and I would say I see this at parents across the income spectrum, every dollar is already allocated somewhere else. Right?
Everything's earmarked. Yeah.
When you're young, you've got someone who outgrows everything they own every 3 weeks. When they get older, you're like, it's the best of times. It's the worst of times. We got on the travel soccer club, so there's always something. I think that college is too important of a goal to just say, we'll figure it out when you get there. You have 18 years basically from the time your child is born until the time they go to college. And that is a really short window. The days are long, the years are short when you have kids, and never more so than when it comes to money. But college also needs to be kept in balance with everything else. And so my rule of thumb is emergency savings comes first. And so if you have credit card debt, chances are you don't have emergency savings, because you should be putting it towards your credit card debt at 28% right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, but if you don't have emergency savings, you probably don't have retirement savings or college savings. But assuming you've got some emergency savings and then you're starting to save for retirement, no more than 10% of what you're putting into retirement should go into your kids' college. And in many cases, it would be a fortunate situation if you were able to do that, especially when you're juggling your own student loans. So with your own student loans, make sure you're on the best possible payment program with the lowest possible repayment. Most of the income-driven programs will give you significant discounts in your payment and forgiveness after a period of time. So that's certainly an option to look at to get that bill under control. But I always think, even if you are yourself not in a position to save, opening a 529 is a great choice for any family. And here's why. Almost every 529 has a tool called a gifting page. And if you are not in a position to make your own contributions, you can share that gifting page with family members, friends, others who are generous with your kids, around their birthday, holidays, things like that, and say, hey, we've got plenty of toys. What we really would love to have you contribute to is our child's education. And here's a link to their 529 where you can make a contribution as small as $25.
Oh, I like that.
So that can be a great way to get a head start on savings. I think too, as you go through the years, a couple things are important. One is make sure that on a periodic basis, you're looking at your budget and seeing, is there a place where I can carve out maybe another $5, $10, $20, $50 a month to start contributing towards college? College savings is important for two reasons. One is kids whose families have saved for college not only enroll at higher rates, but they graduate at higher rates than those whose families didn't. And we can argue chicken and egg all day long, but it is a fact.
Yeah.
And it's not just that they enroll, it's that they graduate at higher rates. And that's even with small amounts of savings. So setting aside some money for college is going to increase the likelihood that your child will get a college degree. Excuse me, the second reason that it's important is that more savings gives you more choices. So in my daughter's case, for example, she had a full tuition scholarship to our in-state school. It was not a good fit for her for a lot of reasons. She was also accepted to a very selective private school with a great scholarship offer. But a great scholarship offer is still more than $0. Had we not saved, she wouldn't have had that choice. And it was just a terrific experience for her. And I'm so glad that she was able to do it. So, your savings will create choices for your kids. There's an additional component of all of this. We can talk financial planning all day long, but there's two really important pieces of financial planning for college. That's the financial planning piece. That's the saving and budgeting and planning and knowing what you can afford to pay and understanding student loans and that piece. But the other really important part is the parenting piece. And that is talking with your kids about what your expectations are, what you're able to contribute, the fact that you're saving, the fact that it's important to them, to you, that they have the opportunity to go to college, so that you're framing it that way. And as they get older and money starts to take on more meaning for them, and in particular when they're in high school, starting to talk with them about what your actual budget for college is. I think it's important to do that from the perspective of goals, not constraints, which means having a conversation that sounds like it's really important for us that you're able to finish your undergraduate degree with no student loan debt. And we have saved diligently so you can do that. And we know that with the scholarship that you're eligible for at the University of insert your state here, that you can do that. You can probably find other opportunities within that same budget, and we will absolutely support you in finding them. Is a better way to have that conversation than you need to stick in state because that's all we can afford.
Now, you spoke about 529 plans earlier, and I'm sure you'd be in a much better position to explain than I would what makes these kind of savings plans so valuable to people saving for college from a tax standpoint, because they're a little more powerful than just a normal savings account.
Absolutely. So 529s are really a powerhouse for college savings, and not just for college savings, but also for financial aid. The way a 529 works, so it's a dedicated college savings account. You make contributions with after-tax dollars, and then the money that you put in the account grows tax-free. And then as long as it's used for qualified higher education expenses, which is tuition, fees, room and board, books, supplies, computer, pretty long list, then those distributions are tax-free. So if you think, if you compare that to, say, using a regular taxable investment account where you might invest the same way, you're going to be paying capital gains and income taxes on the distributions that you take out. So your money is worth quite a bit more when you have it in the 529 versus in a taxable account. So let's say,
especially
for example,
after 18 years of appreciation,
right?
That really adds up.
Yeah. I mean, basically 100% of the money in your account is available for college versus, 75 to 80% net of taxes that's available in a taxable account. The other great thing about 529s is many states offer a state tax deduction or credit for your contributions. So it's a way to just make your money go a little further. So, that may be a couple $100s every year, but a couple $100s times 18 years. And actually you can continue contributing through college and taking the tax credit or deduction through college. So you may be able to get, 21, 22 years worth of tax benefits for your contributions. That's starting to be real money. At that point. The other thing with 529s is they're great for financial aid because of the recent changes to the FAFSA. So it used to be that when you filed the FAFSA, so there are 4 elements to how the FAFSA calculates your ability to pay for college. It's the parents' income and assets and the student's income and assets. And it used to be that the parents had to report all of their 529s for all of their kids. So let's say you have 3 kids and each one has $20,000 in a 529. That used to be $60,000 of assets on the FAFSA. Now, with the changes this year that came to the FAFSA, you only report the student whose FAFSA it is 529 account balance. So in that same family, instead of reporting $60,000 worth of 529s, now it's only $20,000 worth. So it's a way to shield additional dollars from inclusion in the financial aid formulas as well.
Which can lead to more favorable financial aid offers from colleges when you submit the FAFSA.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. That's a cool little change. Thank you for keep that in my back pocket. Before I give you the final question, Ann, there was a question that I wanted to ask you that is sort of off topic from everything else we've discussed, but maybe slightly on topic. But it was an interestingly enough thing that you had brought up in the past that I wanted to bring it up. I've heard you say in the past that pushing a child to be high achieving can often backfire. What did you mean by that?
Well, I'll tell you a story from my own kids by way of illustrating that. At our high school, which I think is a pretty normal among high schools, the kids are really strong. It's an IB school, and the kids are really strongly encouraged to take those classes. And so we as parents sort of jumped on that train. We're like, all in, well, let's do it. And so that was great for my daughter. She loved those classes. She thrived in them. She felt like they were excellent preparation for college. She loved all the work, all the intensity and whatnot. My son did not. He had a horrible time in them and really struggled academically in a number of his classes. And in fact, he had a fairly low GPA, all things considered, when he graduated from high school. And what we found when he went to apply for colleges was that the college that he attended is, like many colleges, uses your unweighted GPA to award merit scholarships. And so had we encouraged him to take more normal level classes versus IB classes and advanced math and whatnot, he would have gotten an additional $12,000 a year in merit scholarships.
Oh, because the unweighted GPA would have been higher.
Because his GPA would have been higher. So that's just strictly speaking of the dollars. As a parent, I would have been thrilled to spend less evenings with him crying over his homework or saying that he was the dumbest person that he knew, or all of those things. Now, I will say those classes were terrific preparation. Both of my kids felt they were terrific preparation for college. And in fact, my son, who failed high school calculus, ended up tutoring college statistics. So, so there are pathways through for kids at a lot of different levels of academic maturity when they are in high school. But I do think it's worth, depending on your kid's pathway and your kid as a student, I think it's worth being somewhat judicious in looking at how you how you incorporate those classes into your coursework. Now, of course, if you're applying to the Ivies, to the more selective colleges, having a full slate of AP or IB classes is pretty much table stakes to get them to look at your application.
Yeah.
But for the vast majority of kids, I think, choosing the classes to take where you have the passion and interest level in the subject to do the work that's required is also a really good pathway.
And to your previous point, I think there is a role that academic maturity plays in all of this when we're talking about, what we should be driving particular kids into, and also acknowledging that academic maturity can sometimes bloom later in kids. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like with the example of your son, it all sort of clicked for him when he started at college, and he, turned it onto a whole other level and, is achieving great things professionally, because that's when, the blooming for him happened at a different time than it happens for other kids. But again, as you noted, your kids are both doing amazing things professionally. So it's acknowledging that, it can happen at different times, and, don't try to push your child into something that, they're not ready for at that time. That's kind of a wake-up call for us, I think, in K-12 education a little bit, because in our setting, we're so driven to want to make all of our kids achieve as much as possible, right? As a matter of course, we're often drawn to get as many kids in APs as possible, get as many kids in IBs as possible. If you're taking 3 APs, maybe we try to get you to take 4. If you're doing 4, maybe 6. And, and in a lot of ways that pays dividends for our schools, because we have a lot of kids that are getting into very prestigious universities and getting great scholarships. And so we're all very happy. But at the same time, to your point, Ann, it is important to take a step back, acknowledge that every student is in a different place academically, and make sure that we're creating the right kind of education experience for that student.
Yeah. I think to the extent that we are able to instill a love of learning in our kids, that will take them further than will having read Shakespeare and Macbeth.
Right.
By the time they graduate from high school.
Our guest has been Ann Garcia, a certified financial planner and the college financial lady. Her book, How to Pay for College, is available now. You can find out more about her work by visiting thecollegefinanciallady.com. And before we let you go, we got one last question for you. If with the snap of your fingers, you could make any change to the education system, what change would it be?
I would like to see us treat education as more of a public good than we do. We sort of, air quotes, call it a public good, but we don't treat it as one. And cost is one component of that. And, obviously we've talked a lot about that. College should be more accessible at lower price points because we need college educated people to do a lot of the roles in our society. But it's more than just the money. We have a society, for example, where we have a drastic shortage of nurses, and yet getting into nursing school is like getting into Harvard. It shouldn't be that way. If we need more nurses, we should be educating more nurses. Same with engineering. We have a need for engineers, and we're great about opening. Opening up H-1B visas. We're not great about creating additional additional spots in engineering programs. So I think, there's a level of integration that education needs to have in our society, higher ed in particular, that isn't there. And it's not just the money, it's the priorities, it's the who and how we're educating. Yeah. I mean, why does it cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars to become a teacher?
Yeah.
When we need teachers are really the building block of our society.
And thank you very much for your perspective this week. We went a little longer than usual with these interviews, just because I really enjoyed all of the great insight you were providing. And so much so that I would hope that you stay in touch with us, because I'd love to have you on again real soon to keep the conversation going. This has been a real treat. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
And thank you all for checking out Big Ideas in Education. We'll see you next week.
The views expressed on the preceding program have been those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Academica, its clients, staff, affiliates, or advertisers.